Good afternoon. I am Ryan Clifton Bolin. I want to talk about a portion of an article that I read from the Daily Wire that states that the reporter Brian Stelter, I believe that is his name, stated that the Biden administration is failing because, quote, the Fox News network says so. So I'm going to read a portion of this article, and then I'm going to give you some key points that I came up with and why I think the way I think about what this man has said. And the title of the article is Brian Stelter. I hope that's how I'm pronouncing his name. I might be butchering it, but it says the reason Americans think Biden is failing is because Fox News told them so. CNN anchor Brian Stelter seems entirely convinced that the media is at least partly to blame for President Joe Biden's polling problems, and even went so far as to suggest that Americans believe Biden is failing to deliver on his campaign promises because negative news on Fox News, negative information on Fox News told them so. Stelter dug into what he called, quote, the meta story behind the Biden presidency during the opening monologue of his Sunday morning media show, Reliable Sources. And he argued that the media was driving most of what Americans believed about the Biden administration's success and failures. It's interesting that he says this because it was the same thing when Trump was in office. The negative news and publicity that Trump was receiving, which was astronomical, greater than any conservative or Republican president has received before then, was doing the same thing. Now he gets on here and he says that Fox, which is interesting, he says that Fox News is spinning all this negative news. Let me say something real quick before I get into this. I find that interesting because there aren't that many conservative mainstream news outlets. Fox is one, I think, or the only one. Most of the mainstream alternative news sources are alternative. They're on the internet. So for the most part, you're not going to get all that much information on Fox News. But, you know, because it's very, conservative news sources are very limited in the mainstream media. But so another story. So I find it interesting that he says that Fox News has this much influence on the perceptions of people. But I'm going to get into that. I'm going to give you my reasons behind this. What is the meta story of President Biden's first year? The meta story meaning the all-encompassing narrative of Biden's presidency. What's the takeaway? What's the story about all the stories? What's the main impression you get from all the daily headlines and hate tweets? Is it America rebounding or is it America on the wrong track? Stelter asked. Does anyone really believe that America is rebounding? But I ain't gonna go too far into that. Let me just read a few more lines here. And according to at least one recent NBC poll, more Americans believe the latter. 71% said they believe the United States is headed in the wrong direction. Stelter said that the first step was acknowledging just how much power the American media had in helping to shape that, quote, meta story. Maybe that's why so many liberals are so frustrated right now, worried about Biden's poll numbers, irritated at the media's framing, and concerned that Biden isn't doing enough to shape his own story, Stelter continued, arguing that media outlets were effectively shouting down a president who wasn't doing a lot to drown them out. Let me just stop right there. And I find, let me let you get right into this because I find this extremely interesting that he would say this. From what I've heard, I've read many different quotes and views about this particular CNN reporter. And according to some of the alternative news sources that I have read and have viewed, this is a very disliked individual. But I'm not going to go into any detail about disliking him or anything like that because I don't know a whole lot about him. All I know is that he's a liberal and a liberal reporter. And liberal reporters, in my experience and observations, tend to be, not all the time, but for the most part, tend to be one side and they tend to reject the other side. So let me just say this right off the bat. And this is what I think about all of this. If you guys want to read the rest of the article, you can read the rest of the article in the Daily Wire. First and foremost, In order for a viewer to separate fact from fiction, they have to watch both Fox News and mainstream left media. Now he's stating this Stelter is stating that Fox News is spending so much negativity towards the Biden administration that people are believing everything that Fox News says. In other words, whatever Fox News says, they believe it. But I don't believe that's the case. I don't believe that's the case, in my opinion. Because Fox News is one of the few conservative news shows on mainstream media, and they don't have as much influence as CNN, MSNBC, CBS, ABC. Mostly all of the mainstream news outlets are liberal. So most of the news that's influencing people's perceptions is left-leaning. So this idea that Fox News is making statements about the Biden administration that are not so shining and bright, and people believe in it simply because Fox News says so, I don't think so. I believe what is happening is that those few people that are watching Fox News and then watching CNN are seeing both sides of the story and are weighing their options. When all you have is one narrative being spun over and over and over and over and over and over and over again from those who have the most influence and have the most outlets, 9 times out of 10, people are going to believe that narrative, whether it be good or whether it be bad. In this instance, most of the news outlets are left-leaning. That's not my opinion. That's a fact. When I get to my opinion, I'll tell you my opinion. But this is not an opinion. This is a fact. Research this. Most of the news outlets mainstream news outlets are left-leaning. They support the Democratic Party. They support the left. There's only a few that I know of that are mainstream that support the conservative side, and that's Fox News. If there's any others, let me know in the comment box below in terms of mainstream, or at least moderately so. So, of course, most people are going to get their information from the mainstream, from that left-leaning mainstream news. And I find it interesting. All this crap that they were spending towards Trump, having everybody hating on Trump, hating on him, and hating on him. Now he comes back and gets up and says everybody believes these negative things about Biden because of Fox News. Come on, man. These liberal reporters make me want to punch him in his gut. How hypocritical they are. Wasn't it the same situation with your news station, CNN? For the 4 years that Trump was in office, all CNN did was attack this man's character, attack him as a person, attack, negative. In fact, according to one particular poll, stated that during the first year, or maybe the first 2 years that Trump was in office, he received over 90% negative news from the liberal left news sources. 90% negative information from the liberal left news sources. I find that interesting. Really? Man ain't been in office for a year, 2 years, and all he's been is talking is negative. And what was interesting about this is that none of that stuff they could really back up with actual facts. But most people didn't know that because most people were watching CNN, MSNBC, CBS, ABC, the ones that dominate the mainstream news outlets. So of course you're going to believe just that one side. Of course you're going to believe that just that one narrative because that's all you watching. If people break out of the matrix and break out of the shell of just watching one stream of news, it's almost like they're in a mind control state, which I believe is the case, but that's a whole nother story and I digress. I'm not going to get into that. If they just take the time to watch some of the alternative news sources and don't constantly fall for this idea that the alternative news sources are a bunch of conspiracy theorists. How in the world can you determine that they are conspiracy theorists if you never take the time to listen to what they have to say? Come on, man. Use your head some of the times. I hate to be so dogmatic about this, but that frustrates with me when people are willfully ignorant, when they willfully ignore things that could help them. Don't you think that if you keep going down one direction and it might be, don't you think that it might be destructive? You may say, well, how is that so? It don't seem like it's destructive. It don't seem, well, how would you know if you don't never watch something that's alternative? If you don't never take the time to listen to the other side? Come on, man. We have to break out that shell. And that's in my opinion. We have to break out that shell. People have to break out that shell in America. So that's what I think. I think that people need to take the time in order to be able to separate fact from fiction, or to be able to get both sides of the story. They have to watch both Fox News and mainstream leftist news media. That's the only way you're going to be able to decipher this. But here's another thing too. And he said later on, Stelter stated later on in this article, that Biden is getting all this negative news, and people are believing everything Fox News say, yada, yada, yada. It's all a part of a meta narrative that they're making up and combining all this type of stuff. But here's what I feel from my perspective. I haven't heard anyone say anything positive about the Biden administration except the left media and one Facebook friend I know. Now, Stelter is stating that everybody has his feeling about the Biden administration because of what Fox News is saying. Fox News says so, and so therefore everybody believes it. I don't believe that at all. I haven't heard one particular person in my experience and my observations since he's been in office speak positive about the Biden administration, except the mainstream leftist news media, which is really not speaking positive. They're just covering up for him. And one Facebook friend I know. Everyone else on Facebook, and if he's watching this, I'm pretty sure he knows I'm not. Oh, God, I didn't say it. I wasn't going to say he, but I slipped and messed it up. But anyway, if he's watching this, you know what I mean. This is not to belittle you. This is not to belittle you as a person. But here's the deal. He's the only one that speaks positive about the Biden administration. No one else on Facebook who voted for Biden spoke positive about him, speaking positive about him at all. They're wildly quiet. Gee, I wonder why. For example, the individual made a statement on Facebook that because of the Biden administration, there are hundreds of thousands of jobs are being opened up for people to get every month. First of all, those numbers are, according to one poll, are below the expectations of what people really want. It's below expectations. So the whole idea of praising the Biden administration for these new jobs being open is a bunch of nonsense. That didn't happen. That happened under the Biden administration, not under the Trump administration, not the Biden administration. So I don't know what that's all about, but that's beside the point. This individual is the only one that speaks positive about the Biden administration. Everyone else is speaking negative about him or hasn't said anything at all, because most of the people that voted for him are starting to see factually from their own experience that he haven't been in office even a year, and they're seeing all these negative things. What are one of these negative things? That's not an opinion, it's a fact. High gas prices. Why are the gas prices going up all of a sudden? I mean, it could be a whole bunch of factors, but I find it interesting that the gas prices goes up after he gets in office. And then the other thing is the VAC mandate. You know what I mean by that. No one else is mandating that. Biden stated that it would not be a VAC mandate. He stated that before he got in office. Now he got in office and he is mandating a VAC. He's mandating it. So in other words, he lied like politicians do. Thirdly, constant attack on traditional holidays. I haven't heard the Biden administration or Kamala Harris speak positive about the holidays in any way, shape, or form. It's always something negative, or they either support the mainstream news and negative attacks on these traditional holidays like Thanksgiving and Christmas. So people who voted for them are seeing these negative aspects. The other thing too is higher food prices. Higher food prices. All of a sudden, the food prices is going up. Then we also have the lack of delivery of services. What's going on here? All these negative things are happening. What is happening is that Biden, people that voted for Biden, are starting to see factually with their own eyes and their own experience, the negative things that are happening under his administration. But some people are so pro-Democrat that they don't care what happens. A man could be like, I want everybody to receive a mark in their right hand on their forehead. And if you don't receive this mark, you can't buy anything and you can't sell anything. He could literally say that and they'll still hold on to him. Well, he's just trying to save America. The man, the Antichrist. And you still support him. Think about it. It's one thing I understand people supporting their particular political party, But I'm like this. I'm a conservative. But I'm a conservative not because of the political party. I'm a conservative because those values are a reflection of my own values, which are mostly Christian biblical values. So on a political level, what political affiliation would I be affiliated with? Obviously the conservative side, duh. But if that conservative or that Republican is pushing policies that I believe is detrimental, I ain't voting for him. I ain't supporting him, her or him, or whoever. Not going to support him. So I'm not, oh, I just got to be on this side because I just got to be on this side no matter what. No. If they're wrong and if I disagree with it, I disagree with it. Period. Bottom line. I'm conservative because it's the conservative worldview is the same as my own Christian worldviews and biblical worldviews. So therefore, that's why I'm conservative. If a conservative is saying things that are detrimental to what I believe, you ain't getting my vote. You're not getting my support. I don't care who you are. So, but you got some people that hold on to, I was born a Republican, I'm going to die a Republican. I was born a Democrat, I'm going to die a Democrat. Really? 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 Think about that. Think about that before you decide to die like that. Think about that. But that's what I wanted to say about that. But what do you guys have to say about this? Leave it in the comment section below. I mean, do you believe this guy's off his rocker? This Stelter guy, whatever, you think he's off his rocker? Do you think that he's just covering up or something? What do you think? Put your comments in the comment section below. If you like this video, press the like button, share this video, and subscribe. God bless you all, and see you again next time. Ryan Clifton Bowling.